Hello, and welcome to another Brickslopes overview. This year we'll be covering 2025. Um, I guess I should start off with saying that I really don't have that much to say about this year's Brickslopes, and that's not a bad thing. Um, this year's Brickslopes was um, incredibly streamlined, and I really like that. It didn't. Last year, I talked about the space getting bigger, and it didn't get any bigger this year, which is kind of fine. This year, I don't know. I don't know. I could be wrong on just pure numbers wise, but at least to me, it didn't feel as large as last year. Um, but I I could be entirely wrong. And so in the background of this video, I've got footage of Brickslopes mocks that were up on display, and I thought it was a little interesting uh, because last year there really was like they set up two different sections for Star Wars, and there really was only like one section worth of mocks, if that, um, like specifically dedicated to Star Wars. And so this year they just set up one of them for sci-fi in general, and I think as you go through the video and see all the different mocks up for display, I think if they had just done one section for Star Wars, I think it would have filled up. Uh, because you'll see that, like, while obviously, yeah, there's still a bunch of Star Wars sets or Star Wars mocks in the sci fi section, there are also a lot in the other sections. Um, uh, but yeah, as far as like the actual convention goes, it was really streamlined. Um, Unfortunately for me, I was quite busy this year with like personal stuff, and so some of the new things that they did, I didn't quite get to experience. And so I guess I'll just go through right now the things that I missed was, let's see, looking at the schedule, if my phone will cooperate. Um, let's see. I missed Build in a Bag this year, so I'm not sure what that was. Um, I know what the game is, but I don't know what set they built in the bag. Uh, then I also missed the Dash and Build, which was a new game that, from a description I got of it, it sounded kind of fun. It sounded like you had like instructions on one table, and then you had to basically memorize the instructions, come back and like build a little bit, and then go back and just do that until someone finishes their set. Um, so that sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm really glad that they tried out like new games and stuff. Um, then let's see, what else did I miss? I also missed Family Feud, which, from my understanding, was sort of like a um, Family Feud type thing that they did, just revolving around Lego, and they had pre-selected panelists to do that. But that was a meeting that people got swagged at. Um, so that's something that I don't know. Maybe they'll do it next year, and hopefully, uh, things will provide that I can see that and actually bear witness to it. And then I think that's just about everything that I did miss. So I guess we'll go back and just starting with day one, check in, super easy. They've definitely they kept the system from last year, and so they've got that down. Super quick, super easy. You just give your name to a couple different people, and the line just flies by pretty much. And then they had the seed part challenge, which were these. The seed part this year were 2x2 slopes in medium blue, I think. And I talked about this in my Brickslopes haul, but they were not the most interesting part for a seed part challenge. Like, don't get me wrong, they're a fine part, but I just kind of wish that, at least to me, the fun part of the seed part challenge isn't so much getting a whole bunch of parts, because you do get to keep whatever seed part you used, but it's more so challenging yourself as to, because like I really liked, last year they had an astromech head that you had to like try and find a way to build something around, and so that was really kind of neat to force yourself into like, okay, well, this is definitely a part that I normally would not build an entire mock around. How do I like do that? What do I build from this? And so I hopefully next year the seed part's a bit more interesting, I guess is all I'm really trying to say. It's a fun challenge regardless, but just, could be better. And then they did opening ceremonies, which I don't believe they said anything particularly like special in it. I know this year Brickslopes did expand, so they did, I believe in July, they did Brickslopes in Colorado, and so that's kind of interesting. Unfortunately for me, I just don't quite have the capacity to go to multiple LEGO conventions a year. But it is kind of neat to know that we are expanding, or that as a program, Brickslopes is expanding. And then they did the meet and greet, which was fine. Standard. You get to talk to a lot of interesting people, and so that was fun. Then day 2 or Friday, the first public day, it was kind of neat because this was the first day that you really got to see a lot of the vendors. And I will say there were at least 4 vendors that were selling 3D printed stuff. And I don't know, I find it funny just me being a little behind schedule on making this video. We now know that LEGO themselves are going to be putting out a 3D printed piece in a new set. So I do find it kind of interesting how one like precedes the other, I guess. But I will say I liked that there were 2 out of the 4 3D printed vendors also sold like other regular LEGO stuff, which was nice, because I don't know, the other 2, like, Hey, don't get me wrong. I'm glad to have vendors, and it's a lot better than the vendors that, which I will say I did not see any this year. I don't think. No, I don't think I saw any. I know in previous years, there's been a type of vendor that I've always hated to see, which is the people that just bring a whole bunch of retail available sets and they will mark them up from their current retail price, and that's it. That's all they're selling. Because to me, I'm always like, that is just a waste of space. Like, you know, maybe they'll get some poor parent who doesn't know any better to like buy something from them, but it's like, come on, like you're at a Lego convention. Like most of these people know, and like, even if they don't know off the top of their head, they can easily just search on their phone and go, "Oh yeah, that's too expensive. Like buy it from you for $10 more when I can just go to the store and buy it." But I didn't see any of those this year, and so I think that the sellers who just sold 3D printed stuff, I do think that that's a step up from the, I don't know what I'd call them, the retail sellers, I guess, or the retail resellers. Um, but and then other than that, there were some interesting ones. There was one that sold Lego compatible parts, which I don't know, like they seemed kind of neat, but also just wasn't my thing. Um, there was one guy that I felt kind of bad for because it's like, you're trying, man, and like he had nice presentation, but he was selling like frames that had like a Lego base plate inside of them, and it's like, oh, I mean, like I can do that. Like, anyone can do that. You can just buy a frame and stick a base plate in it. Um, good on him for trying, and like, and he presented them very nicely, but it was just a bit of like, oh, yeah, I don't know if that's a great business idea, but hey, if he's making money, good for him. But most of the vendors were just your standard. They'd sell lots of Lego, had lots of interesting things here and there. There were a few vendors that sold like custom printed parts, which doesn't interest me too much. But it was kind of interesting, um, because I think last year, if I remember right, there was really only the one vendor selling custom printed parts, whereas this year I want to say there were three. And so it was kind of interesting to be able to go between them all and see like the difference in their print qualities. Um, like that I found actually like super neat to look through, even though like custom printed pieces really aren't my thing. Um, like that was just super fun to look at. Um, but I guess getting back to the schedule, so there was that. There was the yard sale, which was a lot of fun. I do wonder if like, because I don't know, there were a lot of people selling stuff at the yard sale, which like good for them. I do wonder if next year they will try to um like, I don't know, they had a second room, but I do wonder, the main like room that they have a lot of the games in, um, a lot of the time it's either like not used, or there's like a big section of it in the back that I kind of wonder if they could somehow like divide that room and put the yard sale into there, so that way it doesn't have to be immediately like cleaned up uh, before public hours, and there would also be more room for more people to sell in. Um, but I don't know. I personally don't sell anything at the yard sales. I probably should. Honestly, I think that's something I'm going to go through this year and try and figure out what I could bring to the yard sale and sell. Um, but I don't know. I think it would be kind of neat if there were more space for more people. Um, because it does seem a bit crowded as is. But then we did still on Friday. We're gonna a lot of that stuff. Now that that's out of the way, we can get to a lot more of the schedule. But so I did do the small speed build, which was the Durr Burger set. Um, that was a relatively fun small speed build because it is something that could go together fast. I I think it was like 9 minutes was the winner that they put that together in. Um, or maybe I'm thinking of last year and maybe this year's was like 5 or something. I know it was something incredibly fast where I was like, oh, okay, because I don't know, like, I thought I was going pretty fast, but I had just barely opened bag 2 when, like, they announced the winner, so, yeah, I definitely was not the fastest on that. But that's always a lot of fun doing the speed builds. Um, and then I did Team Speed Build, which was the creator pirate boat. Um, I didn't win that one either, but we got pretty close. Um, However, I will say this one was a little irritating. Irritating sounds strong. But just it was a little inconvenient because they had team speed build that started a half hour earlier than medium speed build, and I really wish that um like you know it. I get that not everyone can do all of the games, but it would just be nice if the way they had scheduled it everyone could do all of the games. Because, like, I'm just looking at the schedule right now. If they had switched the Gay Fall community meetup with medium speed build, then you could have gone from small speed build to mediums to team speed build. Um, just running from one to the other to the other. Uh, but, that's all on their side. From what I understand, the medium speed build was one of the versions of the creator parrot. I think the blue version, not the pink version. Um, but I'm not entirely sure. Uh, and then the keynote speaker was Bricks O'Brien, which I believe I think he mentioned that he wrote a book that's like gamer tip for children or something like that. Um, I feel bad because I guess you can look him up and figure out who he is. He seemed like a relatively nice person, but due to like technical difficulties, they couldn't really show off this slideshow that he had like brought to present. Um, so his keynote speech was basically carried entirely on his personality. Um, and he did a relatively good job of just keeping it relatively short and simple, being a little little bit inspiring, but mostly just fun. And so yeah, that was kind of neat. Um, and then on Saturday, we're finally moving on to another day. We'll get through this. Uh, but so they did the yard sale again, um, which was nice, and I believe they also did it on Sunday, if I'm remembering right. It's not on the schedule here, but I'm pretty sure the guy who ran the like part swap table, who would open the hall essentially to let the yard sale go on. I think they've basically gone like, well, as long as it's not a problem getting people out the yard sale, then like, who cares? We'll do the yard sale all 3 days. Um, and so that was kind of neat. But back to Saturday, they did the relay build, which they kind of figured out on the fly. But it was kind of nice. It was the Ninjago, one of Cole's, or yeah, Cole's mechs. Uh, I think Cole's the Earth Ninja, the Black Ninja. Um, I'm pretty sure. It's been a long time since I've really been in Ninjago. Um, but yeah, Zane's the robot. Jay is the sky ninja, and Kai is the fire ninja. I think that's how it goes. So I'm pretty sure it was Cole's mech, but basically there were two bags in that set. So each team was made up of two people, and you both built bag one. And when you were both done with bag one, you would then give each other the bag two, and then you'd have to build bag two. We got pretty close on that one, but not quite there. But that was kind of fun, and so that's a game that I would like to see continue. I really do like the, because obviously, you know, the games, they could just like, you walk in, you grab your set, you leave, like, you know, but where's the fun in that? So I do like the um, challenge of it. Uh, though I guess I'm just noticing that I guess they didn't do blind builds this year. Huh. That's kind of a shame. Well, maybe next year they'll return the blind builds, because that challenge was always kind of fun. I mean, team blind build could get a little irritating, but that was also kind of the name of the game. Uh, but yeah, that's interesting. I just noticed that. But okay, and then I did Dirty Brickster. That was pretty fun. I was actually kind of surprised this year. It was like really streamlined, and like um, like everyone who did it pretty much understood like the assignment, and like it went by relatively quickly. I know me and several other people were worried because right after Dirty Brickster was the $15 draft. So we were a little worried that like, is this gonna take too long, or are we gonna get out in time? Sure enough, we did, um, because that went by super smoothly. And then I did the draft, which was the Grogu, the smaller buildable Grogu with Pram. Um, it was an alright set for a draft pick. I mean, because like I said in the haul video, I definitely think that I got $15 worth of parts, but there really wasn't a whole lot of parts in there, at least to me, that I was like, oh yeah, this is exciting. Like, it was just sort of like, I mean, I like all the parts I got, like, but you know, but I suppose $15 beggars can't be choosers. But then uh, they did the award ceremony prizes, um, and so that was kind of neat. Uh, and then dark hours this year. Finally, they turned the lights off. That was really cool, just to know, and I think I'll end up, because I did get a lot of footage of Dark Hours. However, um, unfortunately, this year I made sure to have a good SD card in my camera. I did not, or well, I forgot on the night of Dark Hours to bring a spare battery for my camera. So I took a bunch of Dark Hours footage with my phone. Um, and I think I'll just end up putting out a video of that footage just in its entirety. Put on a little bit of copyright free music on the background. Um, because a lot of people did have a lot of really cool things for Dark Hours, um, and it was really neat with all of the lights actually turned off to be able to see a lot of the lights and like all of their glory. Um, and so yeah, I'm really grateful to like both the Brickslopes organizers and Mountain America Expo Center that they actually finally decided, okay, we can let them have the lights off. We don't need to say, hey, like the backlights they need to be on, because it's like it is still, even with just because I think this year it was just like the lights for the bathrooms and the lights above like the exits, those were on, um but like that was it. And it's like even with just those lights on, it is still like you can see where you're going in dark hours. Like, you're not really bumping into people and being like, oh, I can't see. Like, so I'm really glad that we did get all the lights off this year. That was really nice. But then, moving on to Sunday, the final day, um, uh, I believe they did the yard sale again. I could be wrong on that. It's not on the schedule, and I didn't really make note of it. But I believe they did do it. Um, but then I had the $25 draft, which was the flower arrangement or the floral arrangement from the botanical line, and that was an excellent draft pick. Like I really, and I don't know, maybe there is someone who went through it that didn't find really desirable parts, but like every time I went to pick, I was like, ooh, that's a good part. Like, that's a part that I don't have a bunch of. That's a part that's really unique. Like, that's a part that I could do a lot with. Um, just tons of really good stuff. And like, and there was probably a lot of really good stuff that I didn't get. Um, because that's just the nature of the draft. But, uh, yeah, that honestly, like, I know that people like to change it up every year, um, but like, maybe if they just changed the amount of sets and use that for like the $15 draft next year, like I really would not be opposed to the floral arrangement making a return to the drafts, just because I think that would be a super fun, like, um you know, because I feel like I could go through that draft probably 3 or 4 times and not pick the same parts and still be happy, because it's got so many unique pieces in there. Um, but then, beyond that, obviously I walked around, I shopped a bit, looked at a lot of people's different mocks, because I will say this year, and some of it I think had to do with the theme of pirates. But I will say that there were a lot of times where I would kind of like, especially if I narrowed in and like tried to like look for a specific mock, I would kind of get lost and be like, wait a second, like, was it over here or was it over there? Like, and be like, and just be walking around and just suddenly be like, whoa, wait a second, like, I don't remember seeing that one. Like, that's really cool. Uh, but, and then, I guess while it's on screen, this was kind of neat. Uh, I forget who, whether it was Bricks and Minifigs or someone else, but they made this life-size recreation of the Berlin Wall, which they were working on the entire convention, getting all of the like graffiti placed and right and stuff. And so yeah, that was super cool. Um, but then um, we did after public hours teardown, which I was really glad. My mocks, I guess I should say. Um, I was able to get those down like in no time. Uh, I'm really getting happy with myself that like I've basically got it down to like, okay, I know how this goes up, how this goes down. Like, it goes relatively quick now. There are a few things that I can do to improve that, but I guess if I end up building a mock for next year, I'll get into that in those videos. Um, but then we did closing ceremonies, which that was nice. They made sure, I believe they went through the list for all of the events and made sure that everyone had been swagged at least twice. Um, and so that was like super neat to uh, make sure that everyone had gotten swagged at least twice. And then they did the big prizes, which they did. I believe it was 30 big prizes this year, which was really cool. I know previous years they've done I can't remember last year if they did multiple or not. I know one of the years I remember very clearly because it was the big like Lego castle, the Lion Knights castle that they did. They had one of those at the very end, and they put everyone's name back in the system. Called out one name, and so that was kind of neat. Um, but this year they did basically that same process, but they had 30 like really big sets, all ranging from probably the like $200 range to like the $400 range. Um, but yeah, that was super neat, and that was Brickslopes this year. I yeah, I'm surprised. I didn't think I would have much to say, honestly. Um, but yeah, just going through it all, I ended up having quite a bit to say. I really enjoyed Brick Slopes this year. I look forward to next year. Um, really, I think the only things that I can like say to improve on is just because there was some website difficulty, though that is explained with like everything that went on. They explained why that was the case, and that was really unfortunate. Um, so hopefully next year that won't happen again. Um, but so hopefully next year registering for games will actually be easy because I know some people registered for games. I did not. I couldn't figure out their system because I think at one point it was like they wanted you to go to like a Google form and it was like fill out this survey And I was like, I don't know how that signs me up for games, so I just chose not to. And I mean, I managed to do every game that I showed up to. I think team speed build was the only thing that I saw people like got turned away from, and that was just because there were so many sets. It could have been that. I feel like there was only one that like there were just a couple people that like they just didn't have enough sets for, um, but just like all years, they've been pretty good about getting standby in for games. I just wish that it would be nice to have the capacity to go to all of the games. Like if those schedules didn't conflict, um, and also bring back at least individual blind build, because blind build's really fun. Um, team blind build, I can see why people wouldn't want that to come back, but at least bring back individual blind build. Um, but yeah, that's about it. So thanks so much for watching, and bye bye.